data, analytics, cloud, AI/ML, and emerging technologies that are transforming not only companies but also entire industries and even our lives. Hi, my name is Piyush Malik, a curious mind who wears and juggles multiple hats as an engineer, a management consultant, practitioner, a builder, a thought leader, entrepreneur, and a C suite executive. Arjun Malhotra is an Indian entrepreneur, industrialist, and a philanthropist. In 1975, he co founded HCL Group, where he served as vice chairman. He also founded TechSpan and served as its CEO. And when the two companies, TechSpan and Headstrong, merged, he served as its CEO as well. He is on the board of governors of prestigious institutions including our Foundation, Indian School of Business, and IIM Shillong, IIM Udaipur, the Doon School, and so on and so forth. He holds a Bachelor of Technology from IIT Kharagpur, and he was honored with the Doctor of Science degree and named Life Fellow of IIT Kharagpur. He also won the Einstein Medal way back in 2001. Hello. Today we have an incredible guest, Mr. Arjun Malhotra, who I have known from, guess what? Ever since I started my professional career, my first employment letter was signed by him through his company, HCL. He was the co-founder of HCL. And since then, he's gone on to found several other companies, and he's a stalwart of the technology industry. Today, you will hear about certain aspects of his life and his thoughts you may not have seen before. So, with that, welcome, Arjun.
Thank you. Thank you for that very kind introduction. And you must
So,
be good if we gave you an appointment letter from
well,
HCL.
absolutely. And the only reason I did not take it up was it was in Kanpur, and there were other things as well, which you and I have talked a few years back. But I'm so glad that finally you are here on the show. And this is my season number 3 doing this. Typically, I'm not a regular podcaster. I do this on the side to inspire the youth and the folks who come in my ambit, and I want to make sure they know about the incredible people who are in the industry. So, with that, just curious about your journey from IIT in India to here, and what was that about to for the people who are curious how an immigrant can have an impact on the U.S. economy.
So I have a slightly different route than most people from IIT who came here to do their master's and PhD and graduate school. I was supposed to come here for graduate school. That's what most IITians in my time were looking at. I decided to stay back in India for a very personal reason. I had decided who I wanted to get married to.
Hmm.
And I just thought that making her wait for 7 years till I got my PhD, got a job, and went back would be putting too much pressure on her because the family likes you to get married when you're a certain age. And I figured at least I checked with my to-be father-in-law at that time, and he obviously said, I can't get my daughter married to someone who doesn't have a confirmed job.
Okay.
So I had only applied for one job. Fortunately, I got it. I joined DCM, Delhi Cloth and General Mills Company Limited, as a senior management trainee, and got confirmed in a year and got married 15 days after that.
Wow.
Uh, what happened was DCM decided to get into electronics, and I must have been one of the few, if not the only, electronics engineer in the company. So I got called by the big boss, the executive director, and he told me that you're either going to head in this new division, you're either going to head sales and marketing, or you're going to head R&D and production. Now think of this: 1 year out of college, you're in the fourth largest private sector company in India by revenue, and they're asking you to head one part of a division.
Incredible.
I told myself, where am I going to get an opportunity like this? So they did find someone from Indian telephone industries to look after production. They got a PhD from IIT Delhi and Tokyo University to look after R&D. So I was given the responsibility of the field, sales, marketing, and maintenance. And, I had to buy a Kotler to see what is this thing called marketing,
Hmm.
because, obviously we don't do that in engineering.
The four P's of marketing, huh?
Yeah. And basically that was it. I, you know, it was exciting. I did that for 4 years. Uh, and I kept my admission open at Stanford. And then they said, you got to reapply for your GRE. I said, look, I'm not going to do that again. And so
Hmm.
that was, in any case, by that time, we had we had progressed a lot from electronic calculators. And basically, the model was simple. We made calculators off a standard chipset. We just did a really good design. We used plated through hole PCBs at that time, gold plated connectors, used ABS molded cabinets.
Hmm.
Our competition used high impact polystyrene cabinets. They used single sided PCBs. So our machine was more reliable, and with our overheads obviously more expensive. And India is a market where price plays a major role. So
Hmm.
to compete, we had to invest fairly heavily in R&D. And so we never really made, other than our first few years, we never really made a standard calculator. So,
Hmm.
for example, let's say the statisticians wanted mean, median, regression. So we wrote some EPROMs, programmed them, gave keys that gave you single key, mean, median, whatever you needed, and priced it double what uh, the competitor standard calculator price was. And that really differentiated us and got us, we had about 80% market share in that business.
Wow. Okay.
It
Okay.
one thing led to another. We moved into programmable calculators, and then we developed our own 16-bit bit slice computer. And we were very excited to get to the computer market. We thought we'd be very excited because IBM and ICL, who were the two big companies, were selling really old technology at that time. And microprocessors were on the horizon. And
Hmm.
so we really felt microprocessors could change the world. And this little division called DCM Data Products was a young division. I was one of the older guys there in 1975 at 25, 26. That was my age. They had pulled Shivnader in from the textile division. I was a management trainee ninth batch. He was a management trainee seventh batch. And because they felt that, they were making a lot of profit, they wanted a little more uh, aggression in the market, so to say.
Hmm.
What happened was, because India was a socialist country in those days, I don't know
Hmm.
if you recall, and there was an act called the Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act, which
MRP.
really
Yep.
stopped large private sector companies from going into any new area
Yep.
that was normally reserved for state and public sector. Now, and if you've ever worked with a large company, you sort of realize that most of the time, the legal department's job is to tell them how they can't do things.
Absolutely.
Right? And so legal in DCM told them that they can't get into computers. We tried a lot to argue and say, look, a programmable calculator, a computer is also a programmable calculator in some ways, but DCM decided not to. So six of us decided to leave and get into that business ourselves.
And what year was that?
1975.
1975, you established HCL,
Well, we established a company called Microcomp
Microcomp. Okay.
in October, 15th October 1975.
Hmm.
Really didn't have a business plan, didn't have any money, just felt we knew we understood the market. So we pulled in all our resources, which was 1,75,000, out of which in Bombay, which was 60% of the market, uh, you had to buy an office. You couldn't rent an office because the rules were crazy that if you rented a place for X years, I forget the period, you owned the place. And so when people rented, they took the value of the house as a deposit.
Hmm.
So obviously we couldn't afford, we didn't have that kind of money. So we ended up buying a 953 square foot office in Cuff Parade for 1,25,000 out of the 1,75,000 that we had pooled together. So
Uh,
our working capital was 50,000.
okay.
Right.
Okay.
Uh, we got a lucky break. Mr. Ved Luthra, who is the founder CEO of Televista Televisions, he came to us and said, "Look, I am making calculators, but I find it difficult to sell them. So why don't you sell my calculators? I'll give you 90 days credit."
Got it. Got
That's
it.
how we got our funding.
Got it. Got it. So it seems like your foundation was more in sales and marketing, and that's how you obviously the six of you formed HCL ultimately. And I'm interested in seeing at what point you got into the US and what was the first thing that you did when you landed here.
Okay, so let me give you a little more background. So yes, we came out of sales and marketing, but a lot of us were engineers who had worked very closely with the R&D people and sort of spec products with them and saw how it happened and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So we then, in 3 months we made enough money to recruit some more people to set up an R&D. And by March, we were pretty much developing our 4-bit PPS4, Rockwell PPS4 microprocessor based advanced programmable calculator. Right. Uh, Computer licenses were reserved for state and public sector.
Mm.
And so to get to be able to manufacture computers, we had to sign a joint sector agreement with UP Electronics Corporation, who had a license.
Hmm.
And the structure is 26%. They own 25%. The promoters own 49%. Is supposed to be public. The total equity was 20 lakhs. You could have a cost of going public was more than 9.8 lakhs. So
Hmm.
indirectly, we own 74% of it. That's how it started. HCL, or Hindustan Computers Limited, as it was called then, was incorporated on 26th August 1976.
Okay,
Right.
1976. Okay,
So that's basically how HCL started.
got
Uh,
it, got it. So it was still during the time when there was emergency going on in India.
yes, yes.
And then the Janta government came in 77, and then IBM was asked to leave India. And then a lot of shakeup happened. And of course, CMC was formed. I worked for CMC. By the way, when I didn't join you, I had joined Tata's, and that was the only reason. Well,
But
so
that's history. But
that's
what
history.
happened?
Let's
Yeah,
move forward. Yeah.
yeah. What happened was we announced our product, the commercial product, the HCL 8C, which was based on PPS Rockwell's PPS 8 chip. We took out full page advertisements all over the country. By coincidence, that was the day the headline was that IBM and Coke were leaving India.
Yeah.
And there was a rumor about something like CMC starting. It hadn't started at that time.
Hmm.
The government said that they would step into it. And with a name like Hindustan Computers Limited, a lot of people thought that we were the company that,
The
and
government
we, of
back.
course, a good salesman takes mileage out of that fairly effectively.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So we did a lot of things. We actually innovated a lot. We were a worldwide beta site for Shugart's 5.25 inch floppy drive, etc., etc.
Mm,
So we
mm, mm,
really got a number. We got uh, the hermetically sealed Winchester disk drives into
mhm,
India for the first time. So a
mm.
lot of technical innovation of leadership. What did happen was India was aligned with the Soviet bloc, if you
Yep.
remember in those days.
Yep.
And so getting clearances of the latest chips would become a problem with Department of Commerce in the US.
Yep.
Most Indians read English magazines and they know what the latest chips are. So when Motorola came out with the 6800 010, 020, 030. When the 30 came out, we couldn't get it in India. It was stopped by the US Department of Commerce.
Hmm.
But people wanted that functionality. Rajiv Gandhi had come in and he had said you can import sources without paying duty. Otherwise, software was not allowed. Then there was high duty on software. Unix sources were available.
Mm.
So we used Unix sources, added our own file system, which was like the PDP-11,
Hmm.
if you remember that deck.
I have worked on that, by the way.
Okay. And our own spooler and stuff on Unix made it a commercial operating system. And when the 030 was not allowed into India, we developed a multiprocessor 020, 68020 system and gave the functionality and the number of terminals that people were looking for. With the unique thing that the user didn't know it was a multi-terminal machine. For
Hmm.
him, it was like a single CPU Unix machine.
Got it. Got
And
it.
at one of those CSI conferences, vice president from AT&T was visiting, and AT&T had bought Novell, which had Unix.
Hmm.
And he saw this machine, and he said, you probably have a market in the US. Because the other multiprocessor machines in the US that ran Unix were MIPS and Pyramid, which were in the $1 million range.
Hmm.
Our product would have been in the $100,000 range.
Got it. Got it.
So
Got it.
we got McKinsey to do a study for us
Hmm.
and give us a market entry strategy. They were very positive. We applied to the government of India to allow us to convert our rupees to $5 million worth of equity, which in those days was a very difficult thing to do because foreign exchange was tight.
Hmm.
They gave us that permission. It took time. And that's how we came to the US in late 1988 to start HCL America.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that's like, a new kind of a journey which not many of my audience would have ever heard. So this is very, very unique. And of course, as you were talking, I'm imagining where I was in school or college during that time. So thank you for refreshing my good old memories. Let's focus on today. You are advising a number of companies on the board or chairman of a company as well. And at some point of time, which year I forget, but you won a Einstein medal as well. Uh, Tell me about that. How did that happen? And then pivot from there into what makes you excited to come to work every day. You're not obviously working for money. You could easily retire anytime, but you're still actively engaged in the industry. Actively, I've seen you at TIE and other events as well. So what keeps you going?
What keeps me going? I can answer that and then I'll come back to the other
Mhm.
part again. I look at India and I feel that the biggest requirement or necessity there is creation of jobs.
Mhm.
And I feel as long as I can create jobs, I have to keep working. So that's my motivation to keep
Wonderful.
working.
Your why is very clear. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'm not getting any younger. I'll be 76 tomorrow. So it's, you know,
That's my daughter's birthday as well. So,
okay.
okay. I'll remember that Jan 7th. So, okay.
Okay. So what drives me is there are lots of young people with lots of great ideas. They, a lot of them need mentoring to be able to grow the company. A lot of people look at it, I'll make a company, I'll then sell it in X years and, you know, get financially comfortable and then do what I feel like. That's a good thing to do. But if you want to build an organization, you want to build something that quote unquote will last forever, then you can't do it short term. You have to look at it over 7, 10, 15 years. And you've got to really build an organization. You've got to set up a team. You've got to, the works that go in there.
Mm,
Lots of sacrifices.
right.
I don't force anyone or I don't push anyone to do it because I know the pressure it put on my family life. In fact, my kids, when I talk to my grandkids now,
Hmm.
invariably my children tell me, but you never did that with me. And so my answer to them is, what don't you understand about the word grand? But yes, I do feel guilty that I didn't spend enough time with them. I was in the field most of my till I was, a lot of time. I mean, till I finally left HCL or sold Headstrong in 2011.
Hmm.
I was in the field, uh, more traveling a lot more than staying at home.
Yeah, no, I can totally relate to that. For the first, when my kids were growing up until they went to college, I was always on the road. Every week I was in a different country. I was heading up IBM's Big Data Analytics Center of Excellence. That made me travel around the world. Yes, it's great, big teams, great, colleagues all around, but your family suffers. So, my path to entrepreneurship was that, okay, I'm not gonna travel for at least 2 years, stay at home to see that, when the kids go off to college, then I will restart my thing. So anyways, coming back to you, very, very interesting background. And given your love for hardware, now, today everything is about software, and Mark Andreessen at one point said software is eating the world, and today we are seeing AI eating the world, and the pace at which AI and Gen AI announcements and developments from different companies are coming. It's like some people are scared, and some people are seeing this as an opportunity. Some people are seeing this as a level playing field, that now you don't need a big um, hardware and software department. You can somebody solo can be an entrepreneur. Solopreneurs can. And there was somebody who made a statement recently that you'll soon see $1 billion company or a unicorn started by a solopreneur. So all those statements are out there, all those quotes are out there. What's your personal take on this side of the business, which obviously you may not be actively doing stuff, but you are advising your companies who are doing AI stuff. So tell me about it.
Yeah, so all this is exciting. It's not going to happen overnight. It may happen over many years. You know, I want to go back to the time when we started selling computers. At
Hmm.
that time, unions used to object. Everyone said jobs are going to go away, computers are going to take away jobs.
Hmm.
Uh, Just look at what has happened,
Hmm.
right? Now, I think the same thing is going to happen with AI. You know, you're going to see a temporary blip in jobs, but
Hmm.
ultimately, if people can work on AI or use AI, you're going to see more jobs because so much more data and video, audio, all that is going to get analyzed. And
Hmm.
so I think ultimately you'll get more jobs. The cycle, the time frame may be different the way it happened to computers and the way it's going to happen with AI. But I think the end result would be somewhat the same.
So you're bullish and you're positive about it.
Yes. And I think like we saw the bubble for e-commerce, if you remember 99, 2000,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think you've seen some level of bubble for AI until the apps start coming in and become useful and give you an ROI. You're not going to. It's
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the problem is the same. You know,
Yeah.
uh, the in a lot of companies, the CX suite, a lot of people didn't understand e-commerce. The
Hmm.
same thing is true here. They don't understand AI, but they listen to all this hype and think AI is going to do a great job
Hmm.
and actually stop or delay decisions, which
Hmm.
may hurt them over the long.
Right, right.
So yeah,
The experimentation cost is a lot lower. So, at least from my vantage point, I'm seeing anybody and everybody around me small, big, or large companies all are trying certain things, but the pace at which they are able to see returns or not, that's still questionable. Um,
And think of we are talking about climate change and that issue right now. And these data centers are going to take a lot of power, a lot of
yeah,
heating.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I would think ideally, why would I not set up a data center in space? I no heating.
In
I've got
space.
fast communication up and down.
Okay.
I mean, put it on a satellite.
So by any chance, are you investing in space tech as well?
No, I'm not, but just think of it. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
no.
talking about all this heat and how do I dissipate it and how do I generate so much power? Why would I not just do it up in space?
So, what you're giving me an idea is maybe you could have multiple satellites out there with data centers inside them, and they are powered by the solar energy over there, and they are able to do crypto mining and whatnot, and all the LLMs and all the latest developments in AI can be processed. The compute power comes from there because solar power is abundant in space.
Solar, and I think you're going to have nuclear too. You can put nuclear power up there. That'll actually last a fairly long time. After all,
Mm.
E is equal to mc squared would work very well in space.
There you go. There you go. So that reminds me of the Einstein medal story that you didn't tell so far.
Well, yeah, that's a long time ago. And basically, I don't know. I didn't do anything for that. Someone came and said, "Hey, you've been nominated." And I said, "Okay." That's sort of how it worked. I have no idea why and why they chose me, why they didn't choose someone else at that time. No idea.
Oh, congratulations. I got to know about it recently, so I bring it up. But that's very interesting. The space angle I hadn't thought through, and now I can see why Elon Musk and the new incoming administration is bullish about things. And of course, they are skeptics of nuclear. But then when I saw somebody who is a PhD in cybersecurity, acquire a second PhD in nuclear physics recently at the ripe age of 79. Now I can understand why he was bullish and why he's still pursuing it. So, uh, hats off to people of your generation who have that tenacity to continue studying and continue working. One thing which I do want to get to very quickly is uh, your investments in entrepreneurship. Obviously, you've seen a world which was uh, kind of constrained by the kind of regulations that India had, or the socialism, or the thinking in India. Today's India is totally different. So obviously, young graduates from IIT and others in technical institutions don't think about coming to the US. They are able to start their own firms in India itself. Likewise, here our duty becomes to the society here, the younger generation here in the US, maybe our kids, maybe our next generation, to how do they balance um, India's needs as a local needs in the US, and more importantly, the society's needs. Because I firmly believe that unless an individual has aligned their mindset with the higher purpose, they will not be happy and they will not be successful. That's my theory. And I want to hear your comments on that.
Yeah. So, a lot of entrepreneurs in India are going, well, at least they used to be going after what I call low-hanging fruit. So you see how eBay works in the US, you do a eBay in India with local conditions, stuff like that. So a lot, and those I call that low-hanging fruit because you got the model already. You just replicate it with local adaptation, and the smarter people are able to do it effectively. If I look at India today, in my view, education, healthcare, and infrastructure are quote unquote infinite markets in India, right? And that's where we have to use technology to try and improve outcomes. I mean, infrastructure is not my field, but education and healthcare
Education and healthcare.
definitely are two areas, and that's where I try to focus. I've spent most of my time with companies that are doing work in those areas, uh,
Got it.
where they're making a difference. And the problems in India are very different to the problems in the West, for example. Take
Hmm.
healthcare. My biggest problem is I don't have enough doctors
In India or here in the
in
US?
India. In India,
Huh. Okay.
because what is happening is uh, economy is growing, and the number of people who can afford to come into the healthcare system and pay is growing by some 12 to 18%.
Hmm.
Doctors are only growing by 6%.
Hmm.
And a
Hmm.
lot of them are leaving India too, as you're
Hmm.
aware.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Hmm.
if I want more doctors, I invest today, they'll be available 10 years from now.
Yeah.
And if I have a shortage today, because every doctor I know is overworked in India,
Yeah.
it'll get worse. It's not going to get any better for at least 10 years, maybe
Hmm.
longer, right?
Hmm.
Because those investments are not going in
Hmm.
medical
Hmm.
colleges in the volume that they should. And so you there must be a way we can find of leveraging technology to reduce or give doctors more patient-facing time,
Got it. Got
and
it. Yeah.
that's what we're working on.
All right.
So I do diagnostics, use AI to do diagnostics in India, and today we are saving doctors 30 to 50% of their time when they use it. There are issues in trying to get it to improve, but those are local to India, and over time I think we'll be able to solve them. And the same thing is true in education.
Yeah. Yeah.
Education, we have a, how do I put it? I once talked to someone, I'm going back to the 80s,
Hmm.
when Bill Norris of CDC he had a setup called Apollo, where he wanted a mainframe at the back and X terminal type front ends with kids at home.
Hmm.
And his logic was, or not him, but someone who worked with him talked to me, and try and use the words they use. He said, why can't a grade 3 kid do grade 5 maths at 11 o'clock at night if
Hmm.
he's good at math? Why did the teacher have to do anything with him in math? The
Yeah.
teacher should spend his or her time with students who are weak in math in grade 3
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not worry about someone who's good at math, right?
Yeah.
And he felt that a computer at the back would be able to help doing this. He said, we force children to sit in a math class, or English class, or whatever. And the words he used were the walking wounded make it to college.
Walking wounded make it to the college. Hmm.
Right.
Interesting.
Now, I think we can do the same thing in India. And today with AI, it makes life so much easier to do something like that. Let kids learn at their own pace. Let teachers only interact with them when they need help.
Personalized education in that case, even at the secondary level, or are you
I,
talking about
I'm talking of primary level right
primary
now,
level? Okay,
K-12.
you're
I'm
catching the
talking
very,
of
very
till
young.
K-12.
Okay.
Universities have a slightly different problem, and we can discuss that.
Hmm.
But at K-12, I think we've got to get people to want to do things. I don't want to force people to sit down and do math when feel they don't know enough to do it.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
have to help the kids. I want the teacher or the aide or whoever to help kids who are finding it difficult rather than spending time on kids who are doing,
Got it.
a good job.
Got it. So, Ajay, are you doing it through a company or through a nonprofit or through the government?
So all of them.
You yourself
Yeah.
involved in all three?
Yeah. Well, we are trying to do that. We're trying to see how we can adapt digital content for the learning handicapped able, whether you have ADHD or you have autism
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
you have, visually handicapped or whatever.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
do I adapt my digital content so that you get the same learning experience?
Got it. Got it.
So stuff like that
Would
is what
love to
we.
follow up with you on that if there are pointers you can provide And if you are okay to share those, I'll share that with my audience as well, in the show notes.
Yeah, the word is accessibility,
Yeah.
and we work with all, well, not all, but a lot of publishers on making their digital content accessible.
Mhm.
Most school districts in the US talk about some 20 odd percent of their kids having some learning handicap,
Mhm.
right? And so anyone who needs to or sells content here, digital content, has to make it accessible for these kids. And
Yeah.
so we work with them, we audit what they have, rectify, et cetera, et cetera.
Beautiful.
That's
Beautiful.
that's
This is your next innings. Wonderful. So this is very exciting. I could go on and on, but I have a time limit here, and I want to be respectful of your time as well. You are flying to India, so how can my audience be of use to you? How can we be helpful to you in your mission? And what's your final message for the youngsters?
you know just focus on what you're doing. Try and do a complete job. If you're an entrepreneur, remember passion is important. Don't become an entrepreneur to say I want to make money. I guarantee you that a very high probability you won't make money, and
Yeah.
you'll get very upset, disillusioned, dissatisfied. But if you go with something where you're passionate, then even if you don't make money, you feel fulfilled, you feel satisfied that you did something. And that, going back to your earlier point, a lot of times when you have a quasi social objective in what you're doing, it makes you feel so much better. And
Yeah.
so I'd really tell young people, I mean, the usual thing, have a team, recruit people smarter than you. I won't get into all that because that you can pick up anywhere. But just try and be yourself. I think, but I always tell people that when you make a copy, it's never as good as the original. So don't try and copy someone. Try and inculcate the things that you see and that you like in the other person within yourself, but don't try and be a copy of the other person.
Words of wisdom, words of wisdom. Awesome. This has been so eye-opening. Arjun, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for taking the time. This is from all the years of remote mentorship. You won't even know how much I looked up to you, and I talked about you. I always felt guilty for not joining you guys back in my youth time, but now we are connected and happy to collaborate with you on anything I could be of help to you. Just let me know. All right.
Thank you. You've
Thank
been
you
very
so
kind.
much. Take
Thank you.
care. Bye bye.